Hi, I wanted to show you guys how to make a mould out of hot glue today. This is the piece that we're using for the base of the mould. I bought a couple of these from a craft shop. I made a version of the mould yesterday, but it's not ideal for UV resin as it doesn't have a clear base. And this is the resin piece I made from my first attempt at the mould. So first of all, I just made a base with grease-proof baking paper and just a piece of plastic that I cut out of an ice cream container. This was just so I could get something that I could slide the hot glue off easily after I'd finished. So we just folded it all around like that and secured it. So that's just what we used for the base. And then you just need to use something to make the sides of the base that we're going to put the hot glue in. So I just used some air dry clay, but any type of clay would be fine. So you can see there's just a bit of a well that I've made there. And then the key thing to do to get the hot glue not to stick to the wooden template is we're going to cover it with candle wax. So I'm just going to light the candle now just to get a little bit of wax going. And then I've just got an old brush and I'm just going to use the brush to cover the entire wooden piece with some wax. And I'm just going to speed this bit up a little bit because I spend quite a lot of time doing this. I'm also going to put a little bit of wax around the clay. That's just in case any of the hot glue gets on the clay. I want it to come off quite cleanly because I do use UV resin. So the more clear my mould ends up, the better it's going to be at the end. The wax also helped the clay stick to the base a little bit and not float around. So now that that's all covered in wax, I'm going to spend quite a little bit of time now just sort of heating the wax up in my hands and smoothing it all around that wooden piece to try and make it as smooth as possible. And then after that, I'm just using a nail and a pin just to get the inside of the wooden piece as smooth as possible as well. I had an idea as I was going, if I heated up the nail with the candle again, I could smoothly melt the wax that was inside the wooden mould, so that's what I'm doing now. Right, so that wooden piece is about ready to go now. So the hot glue gun's been turned on and it's all ready to go. I've got a couple of spare glue sticks already because you do use quite a bit of glue. And then I'm just going to squeeze out a huge blob of hot glue, getting my second glue stick in there. Unfortunately, the glue stick had a little bit of black mush on it, so that's why the glue's not coming out the nicest colour. But we just need to get enough in there so we can get quite a nice indent of the wooden piece. But also I'm trying to work quite quickly here so that the glue doesn't set. I need it to still be hot before I put the wooden piece in there. So probably just a little bit more glue now. And I'm just going to put the wooden piece in and try and push it down a wee bit, but being very careful because it is still very hot. So I'm just grabbing a nail because I'm at a workbench, so just use whatever's at hand just to sort of push that down, try and make it quite level and get it sitting really nicely. Because it's quite a big quantity of hot glue, it actually takes quite a long time to harden, so I've just popped it into a bucket of cold water there, and you can see most of the clays come off quite easily, and I'll just clear off the rest of that clay just to get the mould looking as nice as it can. So that's what I'm doing now. And so the mould is quite clean. It's got that wooden piece in it still, and I'm just starting to sort of slowly work my way around, trying to ease the wood out of the hot glue. Even though we use the wax, it is still quite tightly in there, and because of the nature of the mould, because it has quite a sharp piece in it, I just trying to be really careful not to pull any of the hot glue away from the other bits of hot glue. So I take this bit quite slowly. And we got the wood out, so that's fantastic. There was a little bit, because the wood was soaking in the water, a little bit of it did actually sort of deteriorate and come off in the mould. But what I did was wash it just in the sink with some normal dishwash liquid and get all that little bits of wooden stuff out. So the mould's looking pretty good now, just drying it off, and we're ready to do some resin pieces. So I didn't use any PPE gear for the hot glue part because I find I need to be a bit more dexterous with that piece, but now I've got it all on, ready to start doing some resin. And that's just the UV resin I use, and I'm going to try and do the same colour piece. So all I'm going to do now is just squirt some of the resin into my little plastic shot glass, and I've got some pinata, I think it's rich gold colour, that I'm going to pop in, and a little bit of glitter. And then one of my tools that I use the most when I'm doing resin is actually just cut up bits of cable tie, because I use those to stir and also pop the resin into moulds, because I find they're the right thickness, they're nice and plastic. I can just cure them off when I'm finished using them and pick all the resin off them again and use them again. So just putting some of the glitter in now. Just a little bit. I'm quite stingy with my resin, so I like to only mix up a very small amount, just about what I need. Often it's a bit less than what I need, but then I can just make up a little bit more. So I've sped that up. I don't normally stir that fast. Just getting all the colour and glitter mixed in, and then just using that cable tie to drop it into the mould that we made. And I wanted to be really sure that this set nice and hard, and I didn't have any curing problems. So that's only a very thin layer that I've put in to start with, and that's had probably 2 minutes curing now. So that's looking good. I'm going to go on with the second layer now. Just exactly the same as before. I've got a couple of wee helpers in the background. And again, into my lamp for another couple of minutes. And a third layer on the top there. I wouldn't normally do this many layers, but I did just want to make sure it really cured well. So now I think we'll be ready to try and take it out of the mould and see how it goes. And in the same way as when I was taking the wood out of the mould, I'm just sort of trying to carefully work my way around and starting at the edges. Just ease it out. This bit's a bit nerve-wracking because you don't know if you're going to end up snapping the resin or breaking the mould. I'm just using a bit of a nail there to help push the mould down while I pull the resin out, and then it seemed to all pop out at once. So that worked really well, and I'm chuffed, and I've got that mould to use again now. So you can see that's the resin piece we got out. The hot glue mould isn't a very smooth surface, so I'm just going to dome the top of it to give it that nice shiny resiny look. So just using the same cable tie as before, and carefully just dropping the resin onto the top. Just slid a piece of cardboard underneath it so I can place it into the lamp without having to touch it. And just working the resin out to the edges with a nail. And that's it. That's the finished mould. And then here's the piece we made from it. So I hope that was really helpful.